All right. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. And if you'd please stand, we'll have the invocation by Mr. Garber, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this new year. Help us to live aware, redeem the time, listen to your words, and step out in faith and conviction to make a huge difference in this great city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Well, tonight's a kind of a special night for us because we're going to have a couple proclamations. And the first proclamation is to honor Chief Michael Ross upon his retirement and recognizing his loyal service to the city of Corinth and the Lake Cities. Whereas, in June 2005, Chief Ross graduated from National Labor College with a Bachelor's of Arts in Safety and Health. And whereas, in July 2010, Chief Ross graduated from the National Fire Academy of the U.S. Fire Administration as an Executive Fire Officer. And whereas in May 2012, Chief Ross graduated from Grand Canyon University, Ken Blanchard School of Business with a Master's of Science in Leadership with emphasis in disaster preparation and executive fire leadership. And whereas Chief Ross was part of the Tarrant County College Emergency Medical Service Program in Hurst, Texas for 19 years. And whereas Chief Ross was part of the North Central Texas College Emergency Medical Service Program in Corinth, Texas for 8 years. And whereas Chief Ross was part of the Texas Task Force for 10 years, was with the City of Bedford Fire Department in Bedford, Texas for 26 years, and with the City of Corinth, Lake City's Fire Department in Corinth, Texas for 7 years. And Chief Ross is a certified Texas Master Firefighter, a Texas Instructor 3 Master, Texas Licensed Paramedic, Texas Fire Officer 2, Texas Hazardous Materials Technician, and a FEMA Incident Safety Officer. And whereas Chief Ross received honors including official recognition from Governor Rick Perry, certificate of congratulation from Texas Senator, letter of appreciation from the Texas Senate, special recognition from Senator John Cornyn, letter of appreciation from Senator Chris Harris, certificate of special recognition from the Texas House, certificate of special congressional recognition from Congressman Kenny Merchant, special recognition from Congresswoman Kay Granger, certificate of appreciation from Lake Dallas ISD HS Fire Academy, and 33 other letters of recognition and thanks. And Chief Ross received awards including Lake City Fire Department Employee of the Year, Lake City Fire Department Life Saving Award, Lake City Fire Department Unit Citation twice, recipient of the International Association of Firefighters Unions Plus Scholarship, National Society of Sons of the American Revolution, EMS Commendation Award, American Legion, EMS Commendation Award, Certificate of Merit from the City of Bedford, Bedford FD EMS of the Year twice, and Bedford Fire Department Leadership of the Year Award twice. And during this leadership in Corinth and the Lake City's Fire Department, the ISO rating was raised to a level 2, and the department completely recognition status through the Texas Fire Chiefs Association. And Chief Ross is retiring as Fire Chief of the Lake City's Fire Department after a successful career in municipal and emergency services. And with his retirement, he will be missed by his colleagues, but can now enjoy the things in life which he so richly desires and deserves. Signed, Bill Heidemann, Mayor, City of Corinth. Congratulations, and would the council please come down in front and get their picture taken with Mr. Ross.
I'm getting the instructions from the city secretary. It says not to get the TVs. I don't know how I'm going to do that. The TVs show there, so I don't know. Okay. She told me. He told me. Okay. You want to take one of that? It was not.
This means a lot. Thank you. "33 years is a long time to give to others, and it's kind of bittersweet. I struggle with being selfish, but I'm excited for the next chapter. I'm excited for what's coming, and I'm excited for where the city is going and where the department is going, and I am truly feel like that I'm going out, leaving it in great hands, and know that it has been my pleasure to serve you as your fire chief, and thank you again."
Thank you. Our second proclamation tonight is for a gentleman by the name of Mr. Wayne Tomlinson, and I'm going to have Councilman Scott Garber do a little bit of a background on him before we read the proclamation.
Yeah, I want to give a slight bit of background. Is Wayne Tomlinson's son here? Did he? Oh, there you are. You're behind. That's why I didn't see you. Is Jeannie here by any chance? I know we had to reschedule this because of the ice, and we were in the middle of emergency preparedness. But Wayne Tomlinson is a citizen of Corinth, and through the COVID situation, when he had a minor reduction in his income, like a lot of us in Corinth and the surrounding area did, he heard the hurt on Nextdoor. And he did what I think so many can do, but not many actually do. And that was to reach out and start organizing help for neighbors. And that, by the way, is something that even a 501c3 or a church has a hard time with immediate help. Well, by the end of the year and a half, I believe he had hundreds of neighbors that were involved with this process. I've had the pleasure of knowing Wayne now for about a year and a half, towards the beginning of this process. And at the end, through hard work and not being afraid to ask people to help others, he's raised, I want to say, $42,000. And every dollar that he raised was for a specific person in need. And the specific people in need that were helped, there were 52 families, some of which were brought off the street. He found them jobs. some of which were doomed to eviction or lights being shut off, many of which were single mothers, 3 of which were leaving abusive relationships. And so not only did he help settle that, but he found them a place to live. Neighbors helped furnish those apartments. And all of that happened right here in Corinth and Lake Dallas and Shady Shores and Hickory Creek. And I think that's excellent. And so we've worked with the mayor and staff, and that's why we have this proclamation here today. So, Mayor?
Thank you. Wayne Thomason Day, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, a neighborhood-level effort to help families impacted by the COVID-19 shutdown. Whereas Wayne Thomason, a Corinth resident who witnessed residents who were negatively impacted by the government-mandated economic shutdown that crippled thousands of area businesses and eliminated the only income for thousands of local families, utilized the outreach power of the Nextdoor app by creating a discussion to help neighbors who were experiencing economic stress and job loss. And whereas Wayne Thomason encouraged neighbors to come together to help those who were struggling, and whereas Wayne Thomason pleads for help and his generous neighborhood assisted single mothers and their children, 2 families whose apartments burned, 3 single mothers and their children who were in abusive relationships, furnishing all 5 families new residence, and helped a homeless couple with obtaining a residence, a job, and donated a vehicle. Whereas Wayne Thomason efforts have had a significant impact to over 50 families with payments of past due utility bills, rent payments, food, and clothing. And now, therefore, I, Bill Heidemann, Mayor of the City of Corinth, in recognition of the appreciation for the efforts of Wayne Thomason, do hereby proclaim February 17, 2022, as Wayne Thomason Day in the city of Corinth, Texas. Congratulations, and if you want to come forward, we'll get your picture and get you in Facebook.
So I will say I'm sad that my dad wasn't able to be here today. Unfortunately, the ice kind of kept him away when we were trying to do it a couple weeks ago. I will try to speak for him the best way that I can. I know that being raised by such a wonderful man and mother as well, that I always saw growing up that he took so much pride and purpose in finding ways to impact other people's lives positively, or trying to find ways to help people. I think I was always shown that there's so much negativity in the world that's easy to get caught up in that. And sometimes it's harder to try to find the positive or try to find something that you can do to help others instead of just complaining with the situation that you're in yourself. With trying to help other people, I think what he found in Corinth, what we love so much about this city, was a lot of people have a hard time asking for help. It's a lot easier to try to find help for them than someone actually to speak up and say, I'm desperate and I need something. One thing that we loved about Corinth was just by him speaking out and bringing to people's attention that someone needed help, we found there were over 400 people in Corinth that rallied behind his cause to chip in and help other people. Scott, you were talking about how much money he raised. This was not a man who was overly wealthy who was able to just dole out and help people. It was the community of Corinth always rallying around him and chipping in $5 here, $10 there, a little bit. Like we said, over 400 people to chip in around a cause of just helping their fellow neighbor. I am sad that my father is not here to accept us. I'm also very sad that my father is not in the city of Corinth anymore, because I do feel like it leaves a hole of someone to be able to step up. I know that I would love to. I know that also there's other people that he's worked with that are trying to step up and fill that void as well, of just having someone that people can look to say, I need help. Can you help me? And to be able to have the resources to reach out and just say, there's someone who needs help. Can we rally together and help this person? So thank you all so much. This means so much to me. I know my father and our family. This is an amazing thing. So thank you all for recognizing him on this. And we really do appreciate it. We look forward to working with this community in the future going forward to keep helping those in need. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Citizens' comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments about any of the council agenda items are appreciated by the council and may be taken into consideration at this time or during the agenda item. Council is prohibited from acting on or discussing items brought before them at this time. We do have one person that would like to speak, the citizens' comments. It's Sherry, is it? Pettinger? Okay. Please state your name and your address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Redinger. I live at 1817 Oak Hill Drive. My comment is not about anything on the agenda because I missed it because I was never formally informed. So I speak up now. I live in Corinth, Amity Village, a neighborhood that is described as peaceful and tranquil by realtors and the residents. And now it's in jeopardy because of the new neighborhood that's going in behind us, Ashford Park. Ashford Park will have a main entrance at Lake Sharon and Park Ridge, but it also is going to connect to our neighborhood as well. At Sharon Drive during Phase 1 and at Oak Hill during Phase 2. Our neighborhood is closer to the freeway than the main entrance for their neighborhood, okay? This means that our connection will not just be an additional outlet. It will be the shorter route from I-35 to their neighborhood. Our currently quiet streets are going to become the shortcut. That's my issue. This concerns me for multiple reasons, but mostly for the safety of my neighbors. Our streets are small. We have no sidewalks, no curbs, and no streetlights. Okay, that doesn't happen. Most neighborhoods have all these things, but we do not. It's already a concern for us. We have 250 homes, and now there's a 500 home neighborhood being built behind us, and we're the connection. Many residents, including myself, we walk the neighborhood daily, and Silver Meadow is the street that connects our neighborhood to Corinth Parkway. I won't even walk on that street because it's so busy. How much worse is it going to become when we're connected to the new neighborhoods behind us? Last week, I was informed by the city engineer that the intent for our subdivision has always been to provide connectivity to the adjacent parcels. But if they already have planned outlets to Lake Sharon on the south and the new Park Ridge extension on the west, why do we also have to be connected? Do the residents of other subdivisions such as Province and Terrace Oaks, are they aware that in a few years they will become the bridge to the new subdivisions from the main roads, just like us? Here are my suggestions. Do not make those connections. Our streets can dead end as they have over the past 40 years. Ashford Park would then have room for additional lots in their neighborhood. They would have for 2 at least if they don't have those streets. But if that's not possible, then the city needs to provide sidewalks and lights for our neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am. Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion. Should the mayor or a council member desire discussion of any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any further discussion? Cast your vote.
We have to approve removing items 11 and 12.
That's on business. Item 129. It's unanimous. Okay, item number 10, conduct a public hearing and consider an act on a request by the applicant, Scorberg Company, to amend the zoning ordinance and zoning map of the city of Corinth, each being a part of the Unified Development Code of the city, from SF3 single family to a planned development with a base zoning district of SFA single family resident attached townhomes on approximately 8.251 acres located on the west side of Corinth Parkway, north of Lake Sharon Drive, south of Silver Meadow Lane, and east of Woodcrest Circle at 2000 Corinth Parkway. Mr. Hart.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to have our planning manager, Michelle Nixel, to come forward and to lay out this item for you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Timber Ridge single-family attached homes townhouse development is being proposed as a planned residential development. To orient you, the proposal is for 55 attached single-family dwellings on individually platted lots. There's a max density proposed of 7 dwelling units per acre, and it is a townhouse product on individual lot ownership, and it's the first of its type in the city. To orient you, this is Corinth Parkway. Just north, it's not shown, is I-35. The intersection in this location is the Realty Capital property. Just south is the Oxford, a multifamily, Lake Sharon Drive, and the undeveloped land just along the east part of Lake Sharon. The site is currently undeveloped and has a heavy tree cover. It's primarily located within the 100-year floodplain of the Lynchburg Creek that runs along its southern border, and it drains primarily to the east. The site configuration and density is predicated upon an approval of a conditional letter of map revision by FEMA. The CLOMR results may require reduction in density and design in a future PD amendment. The existing zoning is currently SF3 single-family detached with a minimum lot area of 10,000 square feet. A range of uses are permitted within that district and include single-family detached places of worship, libraries, etc. In terms of the future land use category, which was defined in the comprehensive plan recently adopted in July of 2020, that area is designated as mixed residential. It identifies townhouse developments with a density of 6 to 10 dwelling units per acre. It also discusses connectivity in terms of grid-like streets, developments that have open view corridors and access to creeks and open spaces. In terms of the detail of the proposal, the residential base district that the applicant is proposing is, as I mentioned, a new sub-district that has not been applied in the city to date, though is provided for in our UDC, Unified Development Code, and it's single-family residential detached to permit townhouse-style product on individually platted lots. The applicant is proposing 14 townhouse buildings, a total of 55 lots. And you can see here a summary of 5 attached units, 4 units, and 3 units attached, and the total is to the right.
Most buildings will front onto the new urbanist style neighborhood street design. This is similar to what we saw in the Walton Ridge project, just on the east side of our proposed TOD. In fact, it's the same developer with this proposal. Parallel on-street parking with bulb outs and parkways with shade trees are also being proposed. And they are proposing that one building be permitted to front along a Muse lot, similar again to what was approved in the Walton Ridge design. The townhouse product type is in line with the city's recently adopted comprehensive plan. The future land use again shows it as mixed residential, grid-light streets, and the representative product was updated here from what was provided in your packet just on the 14th. So they're showing product with more brick or stone. The base zoning district, which is SFA, single family attached, and just as a reminder, the PD is to provide for opportunities to create innovative design, something unique that can't occur necessarily under a base zoning district. So you'll see a list of departures here that the applicant is proposing in order to create the new urbanist style that you see on their proposal. So in terms of departures, just to make you aware, they are proposing a minimum. The SFA base district is here on the left. The topic area is along the side of the sheet, and then the proposed departure is off to the right. So the base front yard district is 25 feet currently in SFA. They're proposing a shorter setback to create that more neighborhood orientation, pedestrian scale. The side yard is 15. They're requesting 10 feet and 5 feet adjacent to alleys, again, to make it more compact. A minimum rear yard of 20. They're staying at 20, though adjacent to alleys due to engineering design requirements. They're requesting 12 feet reduction when they're on an alley radii. Minimum lot area, the minimum is in the SFA 1,200 square feet. They're proposing to increase that to establish a greater minimum for their district, for their PD. Maximum density in the SFA is 10 units per acre. They're proposing to reduce that to 7. Minimum floor area for a unit current under that district is 1,000 square feet basically, and they're going up to 13. The story height would remain the same, except they're not looking to add an additional height based upon an added setback. They are increasing the maximum building area from 55 or 60 to 80%, again in line with more urban design, urban development. The separation between buildings going from 30, which is more suburban style, down to 10. And they are requesting that the fencing and screening along a collector road, which would be Corinth Parkway, rather than having a 6-foot high masonry wall, be permitted to provide an ornamental fence with opaque shrubbery defining the streetscape to provide more of an open view, keeping in line with what the comprehensive plan suggests. And the last part of the list, the landscaping in terms of front yard, in order to accommodate the shorter setbacks, they're requesting that they, similar to what was done in the cottage areas for Walton Ridge, to reduce the front yard, to allow for the street trees to be placed along the, within the parkway, so it would be between the sidewalk and the street. Landscape edge buffer, they would like to count 9 existing large trees along Corinth Parkway as part of their landscape edge buffer. Street design, again, going from a suburban style to a new urbanist style. Alley, just adjusting the pavement width a bit to accommodate fire and engineering. Tree preservation, as you know, our current ordinance is a 1-to-1 replacement. What you remove, if you have a 50% heavily treed site, you can get a 50% reduction. Their site is heavily treed. There is no current incentive to preserve any trees on site under our existing ordinance. The applicant worked with us to test our draft city ordinance based on the design concepts that you all saw back in, the sliding scale that you saw back in January, and are proposing to preserve 20% of the caliper inches on site. And if they were to go below that just to show good faith, not just to show good faith, they would forego any of the standard deduction of 50% at the end, which is proposed in the ordinance. So they're fairly confident that they can make that happen. They've added we currently don't require building facade materials in this district, and they added in a listing of architectural features. They are requesting a departure from the Muse lot, the requirement to front onto a street to have a few of their buildings one building front onto the Muse lot. Lastly, in terms of park and trail dedication, our ordinance currently requires full payment of that at the time of the first building permit, and they're asking that they be permitted to pay that at the time of with each building. So a departure, except that if 36 months go by and the buildings the permits haven't all been pulled, the developer would pay the remaining amount. And I'll go quickly. This is an example of the ornamental fence and masonry column that they are proposing along the Corinth Parkway. And you can see the landscape, the dense landscape opacity that they're proposing with the evergreen shrubs. This is a cross-section of the New Urbanist style street with the shade trees between the street and the parkway. The colored trees are the ornamentals, and the shade trees would be planted in the bulb out sections. The applicant conducted 2 neighborhood meetings to seek input with surrounding property owners. They did so via Zoom on September, and then actually once staff, we had worked out, different iterations that we felt comfortable, they went back and tested that with the neighbors at a meeting on January 18th. 11 residents attended those meetings. The developer agreed to a number of items that were listed in the staff report, and one of which was the construction of a perimeter board-on-board fence. And staff will, of course, include the items agreed to in the PD ordinance to ensure future compliance. As mentioned earlier, the rezoning request, in staff's opinion, is in accordance with the development strategy outlined for mixed residential in the comprehensive plan. We did receive a letter of support and protest, 1 letter of support and 1 letter of opposition from property owners that were within 200 feet of the subject property. And then at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we did have 4 neighbors supporting the applicant's presentation. At their January 24th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the Timber Ridge PD application with the following stipulations: that an additional picnic table and grilling station be located within the common open space within the corner of lot Street A, and address staff's comments about extending some sidewalks, just some technical items, and then also that alley adjacency, rear yard setback, and all those items have been addressed. Now, one thing did happen after the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The applicant did a bit more analysis on the floodplain, which is shown here in red or orange for FEMA 100-year flood. When they started doing their engineering analysis to do the conditional map revision for FEMA, they found that, in fact, the floodplain is much larger than what was shown on the FEMA mapping, and that required additional engineering analysis. So they're proposing an alternative plan from what I just presented that P&Z recommended approval, because an additional tree stand may need to be removed in the southeast corner to address their flood mitigation. What they did, however, offer is that they are expanding the size of the Muse area, which was located at the end of Street C, to protect a grove of 6 large oak trees within the buildable area of their property. So they would be losing 2 lots, so the density would go to 53 units rather than 55. And it would increase. This is the before. This is the Muse lot without any tree cover, and then they would expand it to preserve the trees shown here. In doing so, they've requested that we consider a density bonus credit of 0.5 to 1 and the right-of-way credit, which is, as you all know, one of the options in the draft ordinance. Staff is supportive of that because the applicant would be, as you can see here on the right side, this is the comparison, would be preserving and utilizing tree protection within an area with which would have been buildable for 2 lots. They would still have a significant mitigation for replanting or fee in lieu of as a result. Staff recommends approval as presented and also considering the alternative design as an option with the provision that staff prepare the plan development ordinance for formal adoption at the March 17th council meeting. And the applicant is here to supplement staff's presentation. Any questions?
Are there any questions from council?
I do. So you're going to have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom townhomes, is that correct? Can you tell us the square footage for each one?
If I can go through the presentation, then I'll be happy to answer all those questions. But yeah, it's going to be a combination of 2 and 3 bedroom townhomes. They're going to start at 1,400 square feet and probably go up to about 1,800 square feet total. And the price points will be in the mid 300s to the mid $400,000 price point on each of those homes.
Are there other questions from council?
You have a presentation. I want to go through that first. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Please
take. Stole a lot of my thunder. I'm Brian Holland. I'm with Scorberg Development Company with offices at 8214 Westchester Drive in Dallas, Texas. And I appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff. This has been a long time coming, similar to our Walton Ridge projects, which you probably got tired of looking at us back and forth. John Arnold, you probably, if all you were on the council at that time, John's in Disneyland with his family this week, so I'm pinch hitting for him. So bear with me. I brought some staff members with me, our engineers here to answer any questions you may have about some of the technical aspects of the project. But I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because, again, Michelle had a fairly comprehensive presentation, and I think it's probably best that we get to the question and answer session and answer everybody's questions. So real quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Scorberg Company, about our projects, what we've done in the past. We'll talk a little bit about Timber Ridge, its locations, surrounding uses, and the future land use, which Michelle also touched on. The zoning request that we did get approved by P&Z a couple weeks ago, and then kind of what our findings were post P&Z that's caused us to come back with this alternative plan and what we're asking for the council's consideration for tonight. And then talk a little bit about the screening plan and the community gathering areas, and then a little bit about the neighborhood meetings, and then finish up with show you some of the pictures of the product we're talking about. So the Scorberg Company, we're a DFW-based, privately owned real estate development company. We only work in Dallas-Fort Worth. We've been doing it for about 35 years. We've done over 120 projects in more than 30 municipalities throughout DFW. We have 25 currently active projects across the Metroplex and have a reputation for building high-quality, long-lasting communities. We do projects from small infill sites like the one you're looking at tonight to large master plan communities. We got about a 600-acre master plan community in Anna, we're on our last couple phases on, and 2 large master plan communities in Rockwall. One of those you can see there on the lower left is called Stone Creek Estates, if you know the Rockwall area. Both very highly successful projects. Obviously, the ones that you're probably familiar with here in your town are Walton Ridge, which is under construction right now at the northwest corner of Walton and Shady Rest, and then Cross Point, which completed some time ago and which is currently sold out at the southwest corner of Lake Sharon and Tower. These are just a couple of example projects. We've done a number of townhome projects across the years. This one's a project in Carrollton called Rosemead Villas, about the same size. It's about 6.4, so a little bit smaller from an acreage standpoint, but it had 46 lots, so similar unit count. If you know the Carrollton area, that's south of Rosemead and east of Old Denton. Windsor Homes, which you may be familiar with, that's our home building company. They'll be building in Walton Ridge. They built this project for us. That was a front entry townhome, so it's a little bit different than what we're proposing here, which is a rear entry townhome, but the lot sizes are very similar. Again, this is a second one called Sorrelwood Terrace. It's in McKinney. It's a little bit larger project. It was 12.719 acres with 40 lots, so a smaller unit count because we had a lot of open space and drainage similar to what we're dealing with on Timber Ridge. You can see to the south and kind of surrounding the project, and so we got a lower unit count but a larger acreage at Hardin Boulevard and Virginia Parkway. Similar sized lots, again, front entry townhomes on that one. So now I want to talk a little bit about Timber Ridge's location. Michelle touched on it. You probably know this area extremely well. But we're just off of Corinth Parkway, the 2000 block of Corinth Parkway, just north of Lake Sharon Drive on the west side of Corinth Parkway. Talk a little bit about the surrounding uses. Obviously, you're familiar with the Realty Capital project that's in the design process across the street, a highly dense project with multifamily for-rent townhomes, hotel, retail, and restaurants. North of us is the existing single-family Shady Shores Estates. South of us is the multifamily project, Ashford Park, which was mentioned earlier to the west, kind of southwest, and then the vacant townhome undeveloped site just on the south side there. This just kind of shows the truth. We believe this is a pretty good transition piece between the multifamily and the high-dense project Parkway District on the east side there to the existing single family. As Michelle mentioned, this does meet with the future land use plan, meets the designation of the future land use plan, mixed residential, which calls for townhomes and multifamily transition to neighborhood commercial designations. So the zoning request is approved by the Corinth Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because Michelle touched on a lot, but the P&Z approved 2 weeks ago 55 typical 25 by 92.5 rear entry townhomes on the 8.42 acres. It's about 6.6 units per gross acre, just under 7 units per acre. We do have about 32.09% open space. A lot of that is the floodplain area to the south of our site, and which will be maintained in a floodplain state. We'll go in and high limb the trees. We'll clean it up. It'll be a much prettier and nicer looking setting than it is today. I'm not going to get a lot of detail about the existing tree preservation. We'll talk about that a little more and answer any questions. It's fairly complicated. Michelle's wild machinations she's done with her tree ordinance, but we've been working for 3 or 4 weeks at least or longer, trying to make this site match with what we're to save 20% of the trees. And it's been a struggle back and forth. But right now we're at 20%, or a little over 20% actually, and that's our intent, is to save that. And we have significant financial repercussions if we don't save 20% of the trees, and so that's our goal throughout this. And we've had to do a lot of floodplain analysis and studies because, as we talked about, when you're looking at buying a site and you think the floodplain's in one location, you go out there based on existing FEMA maps and all the existing aerial topography in the area, and you do an on-the-ground survey and determine that really it's in a much different location and takes up about 2/3 of the site versus 1/3 of the site, then it takes some really creative efforts to try to figure out how to maintain that 20% tree canopy, the tree mitigation. And so through the work with our engineers, talking with the city engineer and the planning staff, we believe that we can manipulate this site and the floodplain and get valley storage and the drainage that we need to be able to accomplish that and save the 20% trees. Again, this is the post-P&Z floodplain findings. That's you can see the impact on the lots and where that was. When we're done, when it's all said and done, and we get our CLOMR approval and then our final LOMR map revision, all those lots and all the streets will be taken completely out of the floodplain. So there will be no floodplain left on the residential portion of the site. It will be maintained and on the southern side here, as you can see, where that open space is. So the alternative request, again, is to go from 55 lots to 53 lots. It wasn't completely altruistic. We did that in an attempt to save the trees and get to that 20%. But we did lose density, so we went down a little bit on our overall density. I think it actually makes for a better plan. It's a more open plan. You get a little bit of common area, a larger common area piece, more centrally located, and at the terminus of that main entry drive into the subdivision. So it'll, as you pull into the subdivision, instead of looking at townhomes, you'll get a nice view into an open space landscaped corridor. So we went up a little bit on our open space, down a little bit on our density. And as Michelle said, we will have the new urbanist style neighborhood streets, which we're doing in Walton Park or Walton Ridge. So very similar to the product we're doing there on that more dense area of Walton Ridge. And again, everything we've done is to try and maintain as many of the large historic oaks and post oaks and get over that 20% and maintain that 20% tree number. So, and one of the ways we were doing it is to be able to save a grove, what they call a grove of trees in that common area. That just shows you the two lots that we lost on the left and what it's being replaced with, which is the maintaining a couple 32-inch trees, a couple 24-inch trees, and a 20 and a 12-inch tree. All old design and alternative design. And on the screening plan, Michelle touched on this a little bit, and some of this was driven based on our resident meetings. On the west side and the north side of the project, we'll be building an 8-foot board-on-board cedar stained fence, similar to the pictures you see there. That will be actually constructed by the developer at the time of construction before the homes are started. And so what that'll do is it'll probably be after we pave the alleys, but just between the time we pave the alleys and the home builders starting to start construction on their homes. What that'll do is provide for a nice screen between ourselves and the existing neighbors and somewhat buffer some of the noise and the activity that's going on during construction of the homes. And then we are requesting to do a 6-foot ornamental fence along the front, screening fence with masonry columns. It'll be kind of a live screen. There are a number of existing live oaks along there that we're going to maintain, and then plant supplemental plantings in and around those. That'll give a nice view corridor down through the community. We tend to believe in a lot of the first responders like to have a view corridor into the community, so it, from a health and safety and welfare standpoint. And then at the P&Z, we were proposing a walking trail on the southern side of the community adjacent to the floodplain, overlooking with some benches. They wanted a little bit more active gathering area, hardscape stuff, so they asked us to put some park benches and barbecue pits in that location. Actually, they had requested at this lower kind of southeastern open space to have that park bench and barbecue pit, which we're happy to accommodate. One thing I might mention is all open spaces, common areas, and everything outside the home will be maintained by the homeowners association. So even all the yards will be mowed by the HOA. Any private plantings that a resident does, they'll be maintaining them themselves, but the HOA will maintain and mow all the grass, front, side, back, and then all the common areas. Again, we did have 2 neighborhood meetings, one on September 20th, and again January 18th after our plan kind of settled out. You can see the meeting outcome and result and request of the neighborhood. Increased board-on-board fence from 6 foot to 8 foot. We were proposing a 6 foot originally. We now are proposing 8 foot to meet that request. Metal fence posts facing the Timber Ridge community, which we will do, so that or if a neighbor prefers and they want the metal posts on their side, I'd be happy to do that as well. But that'll take some working with the existing neighbors to make sure that we get those fences where they need to go, that no trees are impacted. If we have to dog around some trees to make sure that everything is done appropriately, we will do that. We had, again, I keep mentioning Walton Ridge, but we did the same thing against that existing neighborhood, and it seemed to work out pretty well. And that fence, if you've driven by there lately, that one was constructed in advance of finishing construction as well, just to kind of keep some of that the view corridor clean for the existing neighbors. Again, we'll construct a perimeter fence during the early stages of construction, right after grading. Clean up open space creek area. These are all community requests. That will be done. Leave the southwest corner open, no fence, as shown on the landscape plan. Flush side of the nails facing the neighbor's property when constructing the perimeter fence. Walk the property with the neighbors before constructing the perimeter fence. Again, we talked, these are all kind of perimeter fence issues that we'll be happy to accomplish. And then make sure the silt construction fencing is installed prior to the start of construction, which is a city requirement anyway, but happy to reiterate that. There's a couple different slides of a representative product. We haven't nailed it completely down who our builder is. We are talking to a couple different ones. They all have, we believe, very nice product. The PD is written as such to provide for accommodations to accommodate all the different product types. If you've read through your packet, we're proposing, I think, 85% masonry. Michelle, is that correct? Across the board, is that right? 75%. And then there are architectural features called out in your PD as well. So you can read through those. But there's a couple different styles. This is Impression Homes, who we're currently talking with. This is a product they're doing in North Richland Hills. I believe that's a David Weekley product. Is that correct? And then that's Guillen Homes. So again, we haven't nailed down who our builder is. We want to make sure the engineering works, and we are talking to several of them, but I think all of them are high-quality builders that have really nice product. That's all I have. Happy to stick around and answer any questions after either now or after the public, the public gets up and speaks.
Is there any question from council?
I've got a quick question, Mayor. The last two pictures that you showed were mostly not masonry. Is this product going to be mostly masonry?
Yes, and I should say that those are looked like siding. All siding would be masonry. How do you pronounce that? Cementuous fiber board, anyway. So if you're familiar with the hardy plank, that's probably a term that most of you heard before. So anything that's constructed on the house would not be a traditional masonite siding. It would be that hardy plank, concrete siding.
So that first photo.
Yeah. That's who we're actually talking to right now and in negotiations with. So we believe it will be Impression Homes. We want to leave the door open to have conversations with the other builders if that does not work out. But if it's something you want, if that's a look you prefer, then we can head in that direction.
Okay.
I think you answered it, but the fence is also part of the common area maintenance.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And all of that is none of it's park dedication. It's all common area that'll be maintained by the HOA.
Everything in there is nothing's being dedicated to the city except for the streets, and it will all be maintained by the homeowners association.
And this may be a question for Michelle, but is the way that fence being constructed, and it looked like all the streets that would connect are dead end anyway, but is there any trail access through this neighborhood, like to get to Realty Capital in the future?
Get to Realty Capital?
Yep.
Can you go back to your slide that shows the
right there.
Okay, so I think that answers my question. It's kind of a moot point anyway.
Across Corinth Parkway. So.
Yeah, but none of those neighborhoods connect in a way that you'd want to have walking access through anyway. It's all private property. So
I do know that one of the planning commissioners talked about, and the residents also asked, yikes, this mouse has a mind of its own, leaving this area open without any fencing. And I know that they were imagining, being able to walk, people being able to have access to walk along the creek. And I think John had mentioned in the meeting that would be your intention. Am I remembering that correctly?
okay, well, that answers my question.
Are there any other questions from council?
All of these will be for sale. They won't be rentals. Correct?
Yes, ma'am. No, it will all be for sale. We'll have a homeowner association documents that say that they have to at least be. We can't, by law, you can't keep somebody from renting their own unit, but we will have language that say they will all be. Will not allow anything less than a 6-month rental, even if they do that. So, no short-term rental. Yes.
Any other question?
I just have one. When you went out and assessed the property and saw that the floodplain was actually a lot more intense than what you had initially thought, and you took out the 3 trees that border Corinth Parkway, but then you took out the 2 lots at the top. You have these 5 little trees in that corner. Yeah. You took those out, but then you increased. Now, is this plan, the alternative design, is that the one that you're actually going to go with for sure?
Yes, ma'am. That's the one.
Okay. So the old design is completely off.
Yeah, the only reason we ask for a cap of 55 lots is that if we get ourselves in trouble, when you start construction, you never know what's going to happen, right? There's going to be some, and so if we happen to go below that 20% threshold, we'll never go below 15. I think that's what our commitment is. Is that correct? But if we dip below that 20%, then we may need to bring those other 2 lots back in to offset some of the cost and the rev, if that makes sense. But we want to have an opportunity to keep it at 55 as a cap, but our plan is to go with the 53.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Oh, okay.
Open the public hearing, Mayor. Open the public hearing.
Did you have another speaker? Oh. Okay. All right. Then at this time, I will open it up for a public hearing. And I believe we have 2 people that would like to speak to it. Is it Summer Milroy? Okay, you don't want to speak. Okay. And then I think it's Sherry. Did you want to speak again?
That is true.
Okay.
Her letter, if I would have had more than 3 minutes before, I would have referenced it.
Well, you got to state your name and your address, and you got 3 minutes, okay?
Yes, sir. My name is Sherry Redinger. I live at 1817 Oak Hill, which is in Corinth, Amity Village, which is at the end of Silver Meadow. Okay, so this subdivision is backing up against Silver Meadow, and I think it's beautiful, and I appreciate what you're trying to do for our neighborhood. My biggest issue is for my neighbors that are on Silver Meadow. It is a 20-foot rear building line and a 10-foot alley for these massive 2-story and 5, whatever their home buildings. Okay, that is a huge thing to put up against their backyards. That's my issue, the 30 feet between their backyard line and the new buildings, because I think they're beautiful and I think they're great for our city and the way that they've constructed them. My issue is just I don't want to see that affect the residents that are already there. And then he said that they are going to be valued at $300,000 to $400,000 each for a townhome, but they're going to back up to homes that are worth $200,000 to $300,000. They should give more space then to those homes instead of towering over them. That's my issue. Okay? Besides the fact that we don't have sidewalks. But I'm just throwing that in there. There's another place that we cannot connect to if we build this wonderful downtown area that we can't walk to. Okay. So that's my only issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, is there any other people that want to speak to this issue? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mayor and Council, you've heard the comments, you've heard the presentation. We do not have a ordinance prepared for you based on the planning and development. And so what we're asking you to consider is authorizing or instructing the staff to move forward on the preparation of an ordinance based upon the information that you've heard presented tonight, or if you want to add any amendments to that. And then based on those instructions, we'll bring an ordinance back to you at a future meeting.
Okay, so you just want us to give you the authorization to go ahead with this project?
Yes, sir. The authorization to move ahead with the preparation of the ordinance and the parameters for those ordinance if it's different than what we presented tonight.
All right. I would entertain a motion on that item.
Well, there's not a motion. I think he's asking for feedback. So
yeah, so I think what you're asking is for us to table it, and if we want to give you direction on.
But what I'd like to have as a motion is to have us to go ahead and prepare an ordinance based upon the presentation, the material in the presentation tonight.
So it's not, it's not an approval of the zoning. It's direction to prepare an ordinance based upon the parameters set forth tonight as amended, I guess, in the presentation. Is that?
Yes.
Then I'll give it a shot. I would make a motion that the staff move forward to prepare an ordinance consistent with tonight's presentation, including the alternative design option, with the provision that the staff prepare the Timber Ridge Plan Development Ordinance for formal adoption at a later meeting, which may or may not be on May 17th, 2022. March 17th, 2022.
I'll second.
All right, is there any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Okay, item number 11 and item number 12 on business agenda will be pulled because that has related to our communications presentation. Item 13, consider an act on an ordinance of the City of Corinth approving an amendment to the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and annual program of services to provide for the expenditure of funds to pay for the annual contribution to the fire training facility and providing an effective date. Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance, an ordinance amending the budget so that we can proceed with the improvements at the fire training grounds as outlined. And the reason for bringing it to you mid-year is the funds were sitting in a dedicated account for this project, but we were not in a position to move forward at the adoption of the budget. So we're bringing this to you as an amended ordinance.
Is there any question?
So we're just moving the funds from the dedicated to the budget.
Yeah,
This is the money we talked about earlier, that the money that we're prepared to spend for this.
Yes, it was fund balance money, and then we're just appropriating it for expenditures.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Sorry, Mayor, I'd move that we approve, and I lost my place. An ordinance number 22-02-17-04, amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 annual program for services for the Fire Control, Prevention, and Emergency Services District.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Item 13, consider an act on a contract between the Lake City Fire Department and the Fire Training Structure, FTS LLC, for the construction of a 3-story training construction structure located at the fire training field at 2708 Shady Shores Road in the amount not to exceed $344,956 and authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is the contract to actually construct the fire training tower and part of the training grounds.
Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the contract with Fire Training Structures for the construction of the training tower in the amount not to exceed $344,956 and authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
I second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Consider an act on the ordinance of the City of Corinth, Texas, calling for a joint general election with Denton County to be held on Saturday, May 7th, 2022, for the purpose of electing one council member for Place 1, Place 3, and Place 4 to serve as members of the Corinth City Council for terms of 2 years each, and authorizing the city manager to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this ordinance. I entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 22-02-17-05, calling for a general election with Denton County to be held on May 7th, 2022, for the purpose of electing City Council, Place 1, Place 3, and Place 4 to the City of Corinth City Council.
I second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Okay, consider an act on the ordinance of the City of Corinth calling for a joint special election with Denton County to be held on Saturday, May 7, 2022, for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city proportion relating to amendments to the Corinth Home Rule Charter and authorizing the city manager to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this ordinance. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 22-02-17-06, calling for a joint special election with Denton County to be held on May 7th, 2022, submitting to the qualified voters propositions relating to the Corinth Home Rule Charter amendments and authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
I second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's unanimous. Consider an act upon the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission to appoint Wade May as chairman and Cody Kober as vice chairman for the 2021-2022 term. I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could just make a comment. The recommendation for this is coming from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the reason for these two particular individuals are they're the ones that have been on the commission for some time, and everyone else, the remaining members, are in the first terms, and so John is working well with them on the conduct of the meetings and so forth. They're training with the entire board as well. So
then with that, I'd move to appoint Wade May as chair and Cody Gober as vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term of 1 year.
I second.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. It's majority pass. Okay. Council comments and future agenda items. The purpose of this section is to allow each council member the opportunity to provide general updates and or comments to the fellow council members, the public, and or staff on any issues or future events. Also, in accordance with Section 30.085 of the Code of Ordinances, at this time, any council member may direct that an item be added as a business item to any future agenda. Mr. Burke.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Garber.
Yes, sir. I'd like to request that we workshop and possibly have a business agenda item to take a look at the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Holdsworth.
Nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Ms. Henderson.
Yes, sir. I just want to remind everyone that next Tuesday, February 22nd, Mays Eats, which is a Corinth business, is having a ribbon cutting at 10:30 a.m., and I would like to ask everyone that can to please be in attendance.
Ms. Pickett?
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Hart?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I know that you don't have time for a lot of reading, so I brought some more to you. This is a book that we're doing with our staff now. I think it kind of rises to the level that I think you would enjoy of reading this, and I think it'll help you think about your role as council members, and it certainly is helping me to think about my role here with the organization. We also have the strategic plan update from the police departments there for a little more nighttime reading for you, and then. If you read some of the comments we sent to you on asking for feedback on the tree ordinance, if you could take a moment from Friday, if you could provide some feedback so we can get that prepared and bring back to you for your next meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so those are the two items I had. Thank you.
Are you telling us that Kelly did not give you any feedback on the tree ordinance?
That's what I'm saying, in a nice way, of course.
You're the tree hugger?
Apparently.
I kind of thought she was handling that. So.
All right. I just have a comment about I appreciate our weekly newsletter from the city manager, but this last week I thought that planning and zoning just did an outstanding job of really giving us an update on what's going on in the city of Corinth, and I applaud you for that, and I thank your staff for that, because that kind of answers a lot of questions for us when we have citizens come up and ask us what's going on. You've kind of laid it all out there for us to be able to give them good, qualified answers. So. Well, we appreciate that. It's very well done. And again, I would just like to thank Mr. Ross, or Chief Ross, for all of his years of service here. Again, you've done an outstanding job. I think one of the things that you can always remember is that you have really solidified the Lake Cities Fire Department in the Lake Cities. And I know that I talked to a lot of the other mayors and other people in this area, and they really share a lot of respect and all the effort that you put into running the fire department and responding in very favorable fashion when you were asked to do something. So again, congratulations on the job well done. Wish you the very best in your retirement.
Thanks, Chief.
Now we're adjourned.